All right, so Joe, this has been a solemn and hallowed week for us Americans. It is when we elected our opinion and told everyone our opinions of how things should go, and the votes are in. And I know you are unhappy.
Well,
Unhappy.
well, no, I'm unhappy mostly because my vote didn't matter this year.
Yeah,
Because they just went with the math.
yeah. They went with the math. They didn't give Clint Frazier a Gold Glove, or many of the usual suspects in the American League, for that matter.
Yeah,
A lot
uh,
of
it is pretty frustrating. I mean, it just shows that guys like Mookie Betts and Nolan Arenado, who've won so many Gold Gloves already, especially in a row, that the math even backs it up. So that's just a testament to how good of a player those guys are.
yeah. So going into that, looking at first time winners, there are a ton of first time Gold Glove winners, especially in the American League this year. For example, at first base we have Evan White, who wasn't even playing in wasn't even in double A last year, and he skipped Triple A and went straight to the majors. Uh, you Cesar Hernandez, who's been a long time serviceable second baseman for the Indians and the Phillies. Uh, J.P. Crawford, another Mariner, who another young guy. Isaiah Kiner Falefa. This is the one I'm most upset at, because if you look at the stats, his main challenge would be against a guy that we know, and a guy that we know can pick it. That is, what's why am I blanking on his name now? For the Yankees, third
Gio
baseman.
Urshela?
Yes, thank you. I'm stupid. Isaiah Falefa, we know him from previous years of kind of being a catcher and everything else, and but this year he went at third base, and at third base he did well, 973 fielding percentage, just 2 errors, but and given 5 double plays in 200 innings. And now let's go to Gio Urshela. You can tell that I'm stalling and didn't already have this up pre-planned like I should have.
How about that weather?
Yeah, that weather. Anyway, here's Gio Urshela's fielding stats. That at third base, 357 innings, just 1 error and 10 double plays conferred. How? How does Gio did not get it? With
Yeah,
121 chances.
I don't know what kind of math they're using, but clearly it's not from the numbers we know of, because otherwise we would have figured out who won already.
Yeah.
So I'm not entirely sure, but I guess let's go Geo for next year.
Oh, and slight correction. I was looking at 2019. 2020, Falefa had 366 innings, but the stats are worse still. Five errors and only 4 double plays. Compare that to Urshela, and how does this is kind of like when Tino Martinez, I believe it was in '98, did not win the Gold Glove, and it was given to a guy who was a part-time DH.
Yeah.
I call Yankee bias, but that's just me.
I mean, we can sort of, if you really want to tie this in, as I pull it up.
As clearly you also had this.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like a segue that just sort of happened. Talking about players who should have won things that didn't. But if you want to look back to what year was it here? 2014. When Mike Trout won MVP. He won that year hitting 287. I think it was 2014. Because Jose Abreu had like a really good slash line that year, and I thought he should have won. MVP. Wow, we are like really bad today.
Yeah, we are A on the ball.
Yeah. So it looks like Mike Trout won that. Jose Abreu finished fourth that year, and I honestly thought Jose Abreu had better overall stats. He didn't have as many quite games. He didn't have as many runs as Mike Trout, but Abreu was kind of doing it all with Chicago. But he had more hits than Mike Trout, same amount of home runs, couple less RBIs, 111 for Trout, 107 for Abreu. Trout had 83 walks to his 52. But batting average, Mike Trout hit a lowly 287 to Abreu's 317. On base percentage is more in favor, and slugging and OPS were all in Jose Abreu's favor. But this just sort of came after a couple of years of Mike Trout losing to, wow, we are really bad today.
Yeah, Miguel Cabrera.
Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah, Mr. Triple Crown. That I know off the top of my head.
So it was sort of like, all right, we got to give it to Mike Trout now. He had two phenomenal seasons, but
he's over.
But now Jose Abreu, he is in contention for the MVP this year, I believe.
Oh yeah, I was about to actually say that not only is he in contention, I personally believe it's his race to lose. So let's get a little into the awards finalists, because that's something that's happened this week we can talk about.
Yep.
So I got this I actually have in advance. So I have from MLB.com's list. I'm gonna go down from how they go. So most valuable player, which we will find out actually in 1 week's time, on the 12th. That would be either Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, or Manny Machado. And normally you would think that Mookie Betts, this is his race to lose. 16 home runs, 10 stolen bases, led the Dodgers to the World Series win. But let's look at Mr. Freddie Freeman, who not only battled coronavirus, but also hit 341, 13 home runs, led all of MLB with 23 doubles, and had 53 RBIs, with a ridiculous on-base percentage of 1.102. And Manny Machado also did well, but I don't think he has it really up to these other two. So between Betts and Freeman, what do you think? Or do you think Manny Machado and his 16 home runs might actually sneak in there?
Yeah, it is a toss-up here. I think all three of these guys are equally good. The one thing that bothers me about Mookie Betts is his .292 average, which to the Yankees is gold, though, other than DJ LeMahieu.
Yeah. But in this race, it's the lowest of the three.
Yeah, and by far compared to Freddie Freeman's 341.
Yeah.
And his on base of 462 here. So that's it seems like that is. He has more RBIs than both of them, especially Mookie Betts on that team for the Dodgers, which then again, I guess everyone's sort of knocking everybody in at that point.
Yeah, the Dodgers are kind of an old school franchise in sabermetrics territory.
Yeah, so Betts' numbers might be a little skewed for RBIs for that sort of reason. And wasn't he also leading off too?
Yeah, sometimes. A lot of times, yes.
Yeah.
That kind of leads credence to the circular lineup that the Dodgers had, that they could drive in runs from any part of the order.
Yeah, so Betts is a little hindered on that, which basically means if you really want us to talk about most valuable player, yes, Betts is a very good player, maybe even better than Mike Trout compared to this year, although it was only a 60-game stretch, and we've seen Mike Trout go cold before for a month of September where he hit like 230 a couple of years back.
Yeah.
So you can't really judge Mike Trout on that, but if you're just going from this season alone with a 60-game sample, Betts was a little bit better than Trout, I'd say. But compared to Freeman and Machado, I think Freeman has got the edge there. The average looks really, really nice and tempting. Home runs, he was a couple behind the other guys.
Yeah.
He had more RBIs than the others. helped lead his team to a really good record, deep playoff run. Although Betts got the longer playoff run.
Yeah, but that's not Freeman's fault.
Yeah, that's not Freeman's fault.
But we're talking about Mike Trout, who was in the top 3 of MVP the last three of the last 4 years, or did he?
Yeah, the only one he didn't was when he had like that really shortened year.
Yeah, until now he's not in the top 3. Our top 3 in the American League: Jose Abreu, DJ LeMahieu, and Jose Ramirez. Of these 3, Abreu led the American League in hits, slugging percentage, led the majors in RBI, total bases, and was second to Luke Voit in home runs with 19. DJ LeMahieu led the majors in average and paced the all batters in on base percentage and OPS, but his problem is, unlike Mookie Betts, his leadoff RBIs are half of what the other 2 guys, that is Abreu and Jose Ramirez, who probably is on the short list of comeback player of the year with a very disappointing 2019 showing, with 17 home runs, 10 stolen bases, and a career best .993 OPS. I think it's Abreu's to lose. Second in home runs, leading the AL in hits, RBIs. Those are sexy stats that people like to look at from the baseball.
And it's not like this is a one-off year either. He had a down year in 2018, but he played only 128 games that year. But other than that, like just looking old school, like average 317, 290, 293, 304, 265, 284 last year, 317 this year. I like to look at the walks to strikeouts, and he doesn't have as many walks as he should, but I think it's something he can work on later on in his career. But it's not like ridiculously too high compared to like guys like Joey Gallo or Aaron Judge. So he hovers around like the 120 mark. But I think he's got the stats. He's shown he's consistent. And this year, I think he's got the better overall stats. But then again, it doesn't really matter too much because, as we saw last year, DJ LeMahieu had some really gaudy stats. Was definitely most valuable out of everybody considering all the positions he played, and he only finished 4th place last year. So who knows?
Well, here's something we can probably all agree on, and that's the American League Cy Young Award winner. Finalists are Shane Bieber, Kenta Maeda, Hyunjin Ryu. I'm not going to talk much about it because Shane Bieber has the Major League pitching triple crown. There is no way Maeda or Ryu is going to win the Cy Young Award this year.
Yeah, I mean, but you have to say, though, that Maeda had a really good year, too.
That's to say these had excellent years. In any other year, they would have taken home the Cy Young Award. But just Shane Bieber with ridiculous 1.63 ERA, 122 strikeouts in the 60-game season, led all AL pitchers in wins with 8. It's he's getting it. There's no way he's not getting it.
Yeah. So that's closing point for the National League for the Cy Young. We've got Trevor Bauer, Yu Darvish, and Met. We've got Trevor Bauer seems to be the front runner here with a nice gaudy 1.73 ERA. He only had a 5-4 record, which is quite sad. Which showed it showed in the playoffs too when the Reds couldn't get a run across the board over a couple of games. So it shows that his ERA is there, and he lost 4 games. That's not something that really happens, or it shouldn't happen. Yeah. So it should be Trevor Bauer, but Darvish had a pretty darn good season. He had the 8 wins. He had a 2.01 ERA, WHIP under 1.
Strong candidate for a comeback player in the National League.
Yep. He had 3 less walks and 1 more start than Trevor Bauer. But he had 7 less strikeouts and 1 more start. But only 3 innings pitched more. So take that with how you want to go.
And for Jacob deGrom, this would have been a lot closer before September 16th. Coming into that outing against Philadelphia, he had a 1.67 ERA and had struck out 24 batters in his last 2 starts, but then got pulled with a hamstring strain after allowing 3 runs in just 2 innings, and that ballooned his ERA up to 2.38. So that would loom large in his quest to win a third outing. But we've seen it before where some players put off certain writers, and as good as Bauer is, maybe his outspoken opinion puts off a few people, or maybe people really want to see deGrom win that third Cy Young. I think it's Bauer's to lose, but this isn't as cut and dry as the American League is.
Yeah.
But there's actually a case to be made for deGrom or Darvish if you want to just take the middle road of all these stats.
Yeah, I think Bauer should take this crown home. He's already turned down the Reds' qualifying offer because apparently he doesn't like that system, so he just immediately turned that down.
Well, it's also he'd make a lot more money.
Yeah, he could make a lot more, and possibly go to a team that will contend and give him a championship. I think the Mets are his best location. I think team him up with deGrom there. What's his name's gonna want to spend a lot of money now that he bought the Mets. Steve Cohen. So I think he can easily get $25 million from Steve Cohen for a 1-year deal, maybe even 30.
Yeah, and
Cohen really wants to throw money out there.
Yeah, and I originally said the Angels could be a good fit. I forgot that Mickey Callaway is their pitching coach right there, and he and Bauer have some history between them that's not great. So that might be a hindrance with the Angels, who we know they're going to be pursuing him just for the sake they need Eddie and all pitching.
Yeah, I mean, same with the Yankees. Apparently, I've mentioned it before that he's had beef with Garrett Cole.
Yeah,
Bauer says that's under the bridge. So, I mean, I think if it's to win a World Series, I think Bauer and Cole can do what they need to do and do their own things. They're adults. They should be able to get along and do what they need to do.
Especially if Cashman hands a check saying, "Here's $30 million a year. Please pitch for us."
The only thing though is Yankees get a lot of their revenue from the sold-out crowds at the stadiums and everything else that's super expensive in New York.
Yeah, but they were. I could also see them as being able to bounce back quicker than other teams, say Chicago stuff, just because of that fan base is there. That when they're able to come back, they will come back.
Yeah, but they might want to get under that luxury tax and.
Oh yeah, I expect that, and that'll be a conversation I'd say for next week. Let's get back to the awards a little bit. We got 2 more: the Jackie Robinson Rookie of the Year and the Manager of the Year. Starting with the National League Rookie of the Year, we have Alec Baum, the Phillies' top third baseman, who came up in the middle of August, hit 4 home runs, a .338 batting average. Jake Cronenworth, who came out of nowhere to hit .356 with 16 extra base hits and phenomenal defense. And then Debbie Williams, Milwaukee relief pitcher, who pitched to a jaw-dropping .33 ERA over 27 innings. In my opinion, it's down to Cronenworth and Williams. I think Williams got it because who sees that ERA with 53 strikeouts? But Cronenworth has a high batting average. I've seen a tremendous defense. He makes a lot of great plays for that Padres team. To come to either one of them, but and then in the American League, it's Christian Javier of the Astros, who solidified the rotation spot after Justin Verlander went down with 5-2, 3.48 ERA. Kyle Lewis, 11 home runs, 5 stolen bases, and that defense. That if you have not seen that grand slam robbery against the Oakland A's, you have to see it, because that is something to be behold. And then Luis Robert, who hit 10 home runs in 33 games through August, led all rookies with 31 RBIs. Looked like he would be a shoo-in for this award, but then completely disappeared down the stretch. For the American League, I say it is Kyle Lewis. He is the next incarnate of Ken Griffey Jr. for that Mariner team, and is the face of that franchise going forward. Any thoughts on these deserving rookies?
Yeah, I think it's too close to really call in the National League. You had a bunch of good young guys coming up on these teams, especially with the Padres here. So I think it's a little too close to call. As for the American League, that 3.48 ERA is just too high for me. I can't say yes to that.
Yeah, especially in comparison to what Lewis and Robert did with the bats.
Yeah, so that's just a little too much for me. I guess I'll give the nod to Lewis on this, but National League gets too close. I don't want to jinx anybody on that and let them lose.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to touch that. But as for Manager of the Year, we have, was it Cash, Montoyo, and
Rick
Renteria.
Renteria.
So it's Tampa Bay, Toronto, and Chicago White Sox. If you exclude Game 7 of the ALCS,
which you have to, because these votes
because
all
playoffs,
came in before the playoffs started. So,
which I know that, but I like to keep a mental sort of thing in there as well for the playoffs. But Kevin Cash, I think he's got to win it.
yeah, there's no sense.
Especially with that payroll, what he's able to do. I think he did a great job. The only team the Yankees couldn't beat this year, really, were the Rays. So
yeah.
for them to shut down a team that was basically hitting home run bombs against everyone, props to him.
Yeah. As for the others, Montoyo primarily on this list because he had to lead the team to a playoffs when they couldn't even play in their home stadium.
Yep.
They had to play. They were the Buffalo Jays, and Rick Renteria on there because they got onto the playoffs. Although probably
he's not there no more.
Yeah, he's not there, so that probably tells you what the White Sox think of his chances.
Well, that happened a couple of years ago in the NBA with
yeah.
I think the Raptors. They fired their head coach after making it like deep into the playoffs.
And go back to 2006, Joe Girardi won the National League Manager of the Year and then was promptly fired.
Yep, it just shows even winning the award ain't safe.
No. Speaking of, this is our last one. We have Don Mattingly of the Marlins, David Ross of the Cubs, and Jace Tingler of the Padres. Their qualifications: the Mattingly Marlins were not expected to be anywhere close. Plus, they had the most they had some of the most transition on their roster in any team in history, thanks to the COVID outbreak. That they had to use the 61 players over 60 games, so which is to say something. David Ross, first-year manager, helped the Cubs return to the postseason after missing out last year, and Jace Tingler guided the Padres to their first postseason appearance since 2006, with the best single-season winning percentage in franchise history. I think you got to give it to Donnie Baseball that Marlins dealt with so much. They weren't expected to be anywhere close to the playoffs, and they actually managed to be in, and then later win a playoff round.
Which doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. But it does for the
the regular season,
and it does for the curse that every time the Marlins get into the playoffs, they win the World Series, which sadly broke this year.
But they did have hope by winning that first series by beating the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah.
But see, I think this is another close one too. Yes, Don Mattingly helped navigate the Marlins through so much, but then again, look at last year what Aaron Boone did with the Yankees, helping manage them through everything and basically using leftover minor leaguers. And Boone didn't get the award.
No, he didn't even get on the short. Did he get
Nope.
on the short list? No.
I don't think so. David Ross, first-year manager. We talked about it when we were going over the division standings. How did the Cubs win the division, get first place?
With an abysmal batting average.
And I guess David Ross was doing something right or got really lucky. So I know that sort of impresses me there that he was able to take like absolutely no talent, or what should have been talent that ended up being no talent, and getting a division title out of that. And then you have Tingler who takes the Padres team that's been trying to do some good these last several years and just can't seem to get things to work, and got things to work. He's able to take control of some of these young guys here, and especially we've seen Machado have a bunch of flair to him in the past. I guess they seem to keep all that under control. I think it's hard to do, but I guess I could be a little biased and go with Don Mattingly, but I do like David Ross. But I think it could be any of these guys.
Yeah, and a correction for 2019. Boone not only was on the Manager of the Year shortlist, but he also got the same amount of first place votes as the eventual winner, Rocco Baldelli. What put him Baldelli over the top was that he got more second place votes. So that is a interesting behind the scenes of how that voting works. Those are our finals for that. Going on right now as we're recording, so we won't be able to talk too much about this much right now. The Silver Slugger Awards. Most of them are at the time of recording. This is right now. It's 7:00 on November 5th. Most of them are in. Some of the notables. Salvador Perez won the AL catching Silver Slugger after a bounce back season. I forgot him for comeback player of the year because he didn't play at all last year because of Tommy John surgery, and he went to hit 300 with 11 home runs. Other guys, some guys we talk about in familiar faces, Mookie Betts, Acuna, and Soto for the NL outfield, Mike Trout in the AL outfield, DJ LeMahieu, Manny Machado, Marcell Ozuna, the familiar faces, and Donovan Solano for second base, the Silver Slugger, who is quietly becoming a solid regular at age 32 for the Giants.
Yeah.
So just goes to show you that if you hit at it long enough, eventually you'll get some results. But yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, you just gotta keep going, keep trying your best, put the bat to the ball, and do what you need to do, and hopefully it'll turn out good.
Yeah, but that's enough baseball. We've been talking for baseball for like 25 minutes now.
Let's talk about a horrible, horrible mess.
You mean football?
Oh, you didn't want to talk about the presidential election for 2020?
No, I thought you were going to talk about the Giants and the Cowboys and the Eagles and the rest of the mess that is that division, among other things in football.
I mean, we could also talk about the San Francisco 49ers hosting the Green Bay Packers in about an hour and a half, and how San Francisco has like no team and also a bunch of positive COVID tests that were like released yesterday. So, why are they having this game?
Because they have no plan B if they have to postpone it, other than to quote Fairly Odd Parents, scramble the varies, or in this case, scramble the games, and move about 50 different contests to make everything fit.
The NFL. I mean, I said that last week and the week before and the week before. The NFL screwed up.
Yeah.
They had 3, 4, 5 other different sports leagues to watch and learn, and they failed. Like, I don't know if this is the players, Roger Goodell. I mean, I want to blame Roger Goodell.
I mean, it's easy to blame Roger Goodell.
But something's not right here. I don't know if it's because they're not in a bubble, which we didn't even talk about Justin Turner's punishment, because it hasn't even come out yet, but it looks like he's going to have a punishment. But I don't understand that. And like every team the Steelers seem to play or about to play seem to catch it. So I mean the Steelers have been clean so far, but this is absolutely mind-boggling that they're having this game. These football players are still tackling each other, no face masks. I mean the one guy on the two guys in Chicago and New Orleans Sunday. They didn't even have mouth guards because the one guy pulled the one out of the other guy's mouth, and then the other guy pulled the other one out and then socked him in the head. Now he's got a 2-game suspension.
Which
the
seems
NFL is completely out of control.
Yeah, and that seems light considering that he basically punched him. The guy looked like, what, you punched me? And then he punched him again, completely unprovoked.
Yeah,
but this all goes to the fact that the NFL's discipline has not been consistent in any sense of the word, ever really. That similar incidents have wildly different results depending on it. There's been the long documented lack of discipline for domestic assault and domestic violence. That's only just starting to get corrected.
Yeah.
And as we said, that they didn't really come into this season with a contingency plan for the virus. At least MLB had a fallback option. They're able to do double headers and play every day. NFL, you can't do that. You can't play right after another game. You need at least a couple days off to recuperate from that previous game, which makes a canceled game or a postponed game reverberate down the line. And maybe that's why I was just looking in the last half hour, reports come out that the NFL has competition committee is going to propose a contingency plan in case this league is the first season in decades not to feature teams playing the same number of games. According to Chris Mortensen of ESPN.com, the committee is expected to pitch a 16-team playoff bracket as a fail-safe in case there are regular season calculations. This altered bracket would feature no byes and be like the quarterfinals of the college basketball conference tournament, with home field advantage still in place, i.e. 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, your traditional bracket format.
The NFL is just wrong and terrible, and it's getting worse. I mean, this is from Todd Archer off ESPN. He posted on the interwebs here. For the Cowboys quarterback situation, he says, if Cooper Rush starts Sunday versus Pittsburgh, he would be the team's first non-rookie quarterback to make his first start with fewer than 6 pass attempts in his career. He has 3. And if Garrett Gilbert starts, it would match Reggie Collier and Drew Henson in fewest pass attempts among non-rookie quarterbacks making their first start. They have 6. So the Cowboys' starting quarterback situation will be 2 guys who've been in the league for like a combined 10 years, I think, and they have a combined 9 pass attempts. The Cowboys are complete trash this year.
Well, that whole division.
The whole division's complete trash, and what's sad is because they all have to play each other twice. At worst, if they all split, they all get 3 wins each. At best, someone walks away with 6 wins.
To quote someone I watch on YouTube, the NFC East is the tank division.
Yeah,
That everyone is tanking. Even the Giants at 1-7 have just as good a shot at winning the division as the Eagles at 3-4-1. And that is
it's
ridiculous.
yeah, and what's crazy is the Cowboys are playing Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
And the Steelers are the last undefeated team this year, and I haven't been able to specifically watch Steeler games as we live in New Jersey and I don't have access to the local Pittsburgh games. I usually, unfortunately, get the Jets and the Giants and some other teams that I don't want to watch.
Maybe the Bills if we're lucky.
And but I follow them, and they always seem to play down to their competition. Sometimes they're going to be facing a quarterback they have almost no scouting report on. The Cowboys are probably trying to tank. But Steelers have played basically half the season already. They're getting tired. What should have been a week off this week, I think it was this week or last week, whatever it was. They had to take their week off in week 2 or 3 because of the whole Titans, which they're in a free fall right now, losing 2 straight, which isn't good. But I don't know. Big Ben seems a little tired these last couple games. The Steelers should theoretically, they could go 16-0. I mean, looking at their schedule, they've got they're in Dallas, home versus Cincinnati, in Jacksonville, home versus Baltimore, home versus Washington, at Buffalo, at Cincinnati, home versus Indianapolis, and then in Cleveland. Looking at that, the only 2 teams they should really have any trouble with are the Baltimore Ravens, if you really believe in Lamar Jackson. I don't. Or the nice upstart Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Maybe come by December 13th, that Sunday there in Week 14. Steelers might be tired by that point, and it might be blizzarding up there. So when it's blizzarding or it's raining, mistakes happen with the football. That's anybody's game.
Yeah, especially from what was the game this week? I think it was there's the one game where the wind was absolutely blowing this week, and no one could kick a field goal for their life because they'd kick it straight, and then it would just veer all the way to the left and away from the post. So what game was that?
Yeah, I'm blanking on that one too, but that's just something you can't have. So when Mother Nature decides to toss her foot into the ring, anything can happen there. If I'm looking for an upset, I'm going to say Dallas over the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't want that to happen.
You're really saying Dallas is going to win after their last couple of games?
Just because how crazy 2020's been. I mean, I was texting one of my friends from college, and I was telling him, I'm like, the way 2020 is going, the Jets and Giants are both going to turn it around in the second half and meet in the Super Bowl. That's just how this year's been going.
And that game was Raiders and Browns. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I was just skimming through. Finally found it. And there were a couple of games, but and maybe it was also, I think it was also the Rams and the Dolphins had a problem with that too. There was another game, but anyway.
But just to look at the standings real quick in the NFL, Bills are atop at 6-2. Jets are still 0-8. Steelers are atop in the AFC North at 7-0 by beating the Ravens, giving them some breathing room. Titans and Colts are tied at 5-2, while Texans and Jaguars are 1-6. Although that's misleading for the Texans, as Deshaun Watson is having a phenomenal season. If you look at his stats and his QBR, he ranks towards the top. It's just the Texans just aren't getting it done. The Chiefs are at 7-1. their lone blemish coming against the Vegas Raiders, who are sitting at 4-3, right behind them. The Chargers just keep seeming to lose games, which they get to play the Atlanta Falcons, who are 2-6 in a few weeks.
That's going to be the matchup of the century, the choke bowl, if you will, because it's been the travails of the Falcons this year have been widely documented.
So the NFC East, you got the Eagles leading with a great 3-4-1 record, with Washington, Dallas, and the Giants all like a game and a half back. You got the Packers at 5-2, the Bears, which no one really knows who should be starting, Mitchell Trubisky or Nick Foles. With Trubisky starting, they were 2-0, although Nick Foles came in for that third game to get that win. But I don't know. Every ESPN panelist is like split on this.
At least they're in a position where they have some room to figure that out.
Yeah, I think that was the Vikings beat the Packers somehow this past week.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure how that factors into things now. 'Cause now they're 2-5. I mean, they're not going to win the division, but that just shows Packers have a bit of a weakness. Buccaneers are at 6-2, but the Saints are right behind them at 5-2. Seahawks sitting at 6-1, with the Cardinals right behind them, and the Rams and the 49ers.
But the 49ers are starting to drop off a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna catch up. But considering they're 4-4 at this point, they really haven't had much of their team really all year anyway. I guess props to them.
Ever since they went into
New York.
Yeah, and I guess to wrap this up, we do actually have two different bits of NBA news.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, first, Canada might skip the qualifier for the 2024 Olympics over COVID-19 concerns.
Well, that doesn't really matter. America should easily win that.
Yeah, Canada hasn't won since 1936, but Canada is hoping that the event is postponed, which might come on Friday. If the tournament is played, Canada could actually forfeit their 2 games and hope to stay alive with 2 wins in February, if you can believe that. And then the other bit of news is that the NBA is hoping to have fans start in arenas when the season starts. They were apparently asked by Warriors officials whether fans would be allowed in their luxury suites, among other teams that have been asking. And it sounds like that the suits would be up to 25 to 50% capacity to get fans in, and they say there might be a way to get more fans into the stadiums, considering those luxury boxes are isolated from each other, so they could use that as kind of a built-in social distancing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how the virtual fan seating works, if that's just you sign up and you show up, or if they're charging for that, but I'd charge for that at that point. I mean, why not? Make money somehow. People are suckers. This comes as like a quick turnaround, because even by like last week, the players were very stern on they seemed to not want to start until like the end of January by Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Well, they're still potentially on track in that. Their first choice is, which this is actually going to be voted either tonight or tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Their first choice is to start December 22nd with a 72 game season.
Mm-hmm.
The alternative date is Martin Luther King Day, January 18th, with a 60 game regular season. Previously, it was suggested that it might be as low as 50 if that's the date. And according to Shams Charania of The Athletic, the December 22nd date, a quote, will happen, according to sources, end quote.
Yeah.
Partly because the week of Christmas is a traditional revenue cash cow, so not having that would deepen cuts for the teams and therefore the rosters as well.
Yeah, nothing's more than having. I think you got to start before Christmas there on the 22nd. Get kids excited for basketball and go buy them those jerseys and whatnot for Christmas or Hanukkah. Not judging.
Yeah. Of course, the wild card is the virus, which is skyrocketing in all parts of the world right now. But it also at the same point there are more treatments out there. We're closer to a vaccine, and while the case rate has skyrocketed, the death rate has barely moved up from what I have seen. So we've been as a species, humanity is getting a lot better at identifying the virus, treating the virus, and preventing serious cases of the virus. So I have utmost confidence that by the spring or even the summer of next year, 2021, we'll have some sense of normalcy. We won't have places fully back up to 100 capacity for sporting events, especially the NBA, which is all, and NHL, which are all indoor arenas. But MLB, I could easily see at 50% capacity to start the season in most places. By the end of the season, most places should be back to normal. And we'll see.
Yeah. And then NASCAR Championship is this week. This weekend it'll be held in Phoenix. This will be Jimmy Johnson's last race full time for NASCAR. I think he might run a couple regular races later on. We've seen guys do that before, like Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and countless other guys come back for one or two one-off races. But this is his last of full time, and he actually missed the playoffs by a measly 6 points this year because his wife had tested positive for coronavirus, so he was forced to miss 1 week, and that 1 week ended up killing him there by missing it just by 6 points, because all he really had to do was finish like 30th, and he would have been fine. Or finish, because NASCAR has this thing called the stages now. If you finish between 1st or 10th, between stages 1 and then again in stage 2, you get points for that as well, which is exactly why Kevin Harvick did not make it, because he was the leader basically all year, leading everybody in points, wins, laps, everything, top 5s, top 10s, and he came into this race 42 points above the cut line, 15 points above the number 2 and number 3 guy, which were Denny Hamlin and Brad Keselowski. But we had a lot of guys here that run really well in the short tracks in Martinsville. You had eventual winner, spoiler, Chase Elliott, which locked him into a spot for the playoffs. But because he won and he was below that line there, that sort of made, because Joey Logano had already won, so that had him at number 1. So Harvick was sitting at number 2. Then you had Denny Hamlin behind him and Brad Keselowski. But because Chase Elliott won, that bumped Elliott to number 2 or 1, depending on how you want to put him with Logano. So then that meant the 3 top guys basically all year had to fight out for 2 spots. Harvick got his tires slashed early on in the race and was down 2 laps, and it's only like a half-mile track, so he was just trying to play catch-up, but Chase Elliott was too fast all race and kept lapping cars before Harvick could be the lead car from being a lap down, because when he went to go get his tire fixed, it was during green, and he lost 2 laps on that because it's such a short track. He was trying to play catch-up all race, so he didn't get any bonus points in the first stage or the second stage, only got back on the lead lap towards the end of the race, and then he just was making his way up slowly once he finally got back on the lead lap, and he was 1 point out, final lap, trying to pass Kyle Busch, and he had to hit him. There was no way. He had to make the pass to do that and make up that 1 point. And he hit him the wrong way. Everyone knows Harvick doesn't race like that. Wasn't like Kyle Busch was looking for a place in the championship because he was already eliminated. It didn't really matter. It was just sort of sad to see Harvick not make it and finish not where he needed to be just because he didn't get some of those bonus points. But I guess hats off to Johnson. He hasn't won in a couple of years. He's been on a bit of a losing streak, the 7-time champ, tied with Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr. for most all-time NASCAR wins, championship wins. So Johnson, didn't like you for most of your career, but good luck out there, and most importantly, Harvick, win Sunday and show him that you should have been the champ because this is his best track, Phoenix. But we'll have to see.
Yep, and we will see that next time. Joe, as always, it's been a pleasure.
All right, wash your hands, wash your face, power shower, and stay 6 feet apart.
All right, see you next time.